This video is mainly focused if you are okay in the opening and you watched enough of my videos to know what to do in the middle game. Now you get into very good positions because you are a trustworthy learnchess subscriber. But how to put it away? How to actually win a one position? So this game starts with e4, then we go to c5, the Sicilian. I play h3, trying to go for a gambit line, but my opponent played e5, and e5 is quite surprising. Mind you, I am playing a higher rated opponent, so in my course after e4, c5, we go for the gambit. And here, if he plays e5, I wrote in my course, which I'm trying to publish, no worries, that this will probably transpose into a two knights variation of the Vienna. So it's like we play e4, e5, knight to c3, knight to c6, and then bishop to c4. And if you know anything about the copycat Vienna, if he plays bishop to c5, we will continue with queen to g4, which gets us into very good positions, but he cannot play his bishop there. So sometimes they also go for knight to f6. So e4, e5, knight to c3, knight to c6, then bishop to c4, and knight to f6. That's the two knights Vienna. And here we go for a slow positional game with d3 and f4, and we just develop the pieces and have a lot of pressure in the center. It looks a lot like a position like that, except he played c5, which does not really do much except for weakening a lot of light squares, but it does clamp down on d4. But it also just blocks the bishop. The bishop could clamp down on this square as well. So, in my opinion, this opening choice does not make a lot of sense, and your light squares are way too weak. And you already created a backwards pawn on move 2. So I don't like this opening for my opponent, but I mean, sure. And I should have played bishop to c4. If I did that, you will have to see, and then you just develop, 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 and get to a position like this. And we just have very nice pressure here. If the knight attacks our bishop, we always have a hideout, and this bishop will be an absolute sniper. We control his most important pawn break, which is d5, because if he can play d5, he will open up the board and his weak pawns will be gone. Uh, the one counter thing is that he controls d4 very well, but the bishop could have done the same job. So I don't like this pawn here for my opponent, but uh, so we should go for a setup like this, and it just looks like you locked in your own bishop, played c5 for no reason, and then we play a3, which makes a lot more sense than the move c5. So if we will reach this setup, we will see. So to be fair, here I play my knight out first. It is the computer's best move, but I do recommend the bishop first. He just develops his knight as well. Now I develop the bishop, and d6, the best move, lands. I find d3 best move, opening up the bishop, trying to make this pawn break, supporting everything. He just develops, and now if you see, we will transpose in what I showed you after f4 and bishop to e7. Then we got the exact position that I reached in my course. To be fair, here I was quite frustrated with myself. I played f4, didn't have a look at bishop to g4, and then I thought, wait, that's actually not that easy. The thing is, after bishop to g4, I have to block with my knight. The knight can get in, and this is fine, and I can castle, and it's okay. But if you take, I have to take with the pawn. You can move rook up, and I have to kick this bishop to try and do this. And why is my king open? My king shouldn't be in the open. So maybe I wouldn't castle and I would just develop this or kick the bishop and then takes and takes and just move the file, take the file, I meant. I had a look at this with my coach and I told him, like, I'm not scared. I taught this, and if he takes and takes, I have the file. I can maybe trade this knight off if I don't want this pressure because I have to move my queen in order to castle queenside. But if I move my queen, I blunder it, and if I move my queen, I blunder this. So probably, maybe I will initiate a knight trade like this. Let's say he just develops. I should castle into that. Oh, I wouldn't have done that at all. No. No, there's no way. Yeah, probably I would play something like this and then trade this knight off so I can move my queen, move the bishop, castle queenside, take the file and start a huge attack. If this knight moves, I could try to play f6 and push the h pawn. And I told to my coach that that's actually quite a nice position, in my opinion. He had his doubts, and I mean, rightfully so. It's minus -07. So, I mean, that's a little bit of a mistake on my part. But my opponent didn't play it. My opponent played a6, probably trying to expand on the queen side and just giving me a warning shot, just poking a little, like, what's your plan? You're gonna castle queenside? I will be very fast with my pawns. I would not recommend going here. Just a little warning shot. It's a okay move, but if you have the option to move a piece or move a pawn, usually use your piece. Your pieces are way more valuable than your pawns, so they will have way more influence than your pawns. These two things haven't moved yet and are quite useless. And this pawn doesn't really do much. It just prepares the advancement. I cannot pin. I cannot trade this knight off. But who says that was even my plan? So, I mean, of course, he should just develop pieces. If you can develop pieces, develop pieces. So he played this, and here I had a long thought, and I just developed a piece. Apparently, if I log the center already, I'm doing quite well. I developed a piece, and now if he just moved his bishop, we get into the position of the course, except it's my move, and he played a6. So we get into the position of the course, he played a6. And that's it. He doesn't do it. He plays h6, which is actually quite a good move in my opinion. Because if you just do nothing, I thought that this move was a very annoying thing. Apparently, you can get away with this because this opens up. I missed that. Fair enough. Yeah, so if you move your rook like this is actually a very big threat. And after this, I can just take with a check and now move my knight even back. Damn. Yeah, my bishop is just anchored in. And if you do this, I can give another check. You have to take. And now I can take this bishop. Very cool tactics. Very cool tactics. Fair enough. Yeah, so my opponent should not really allow my knight here with pressure on the f7 pawn. His only ways to not allow that is move his rook, kick my bishop, apparently taking here, blocking me. And if you develop and I do this, then you can castle into that. I would not recommend castling into this. I would have found this for sure. After this and I retreat, that's the whole point of this setup. Um, yeah, this position looks winning for white, I would say, but I mean, why move the bishop to a equally useless diagonal? I can do this, and now, I mean, my rooks are getting in, my queen is getting in, my knight is very strong. I have immense pressure on these two. Yeah, I don't know. I would say that white is almost winning here. Apparently, it's not, but I mean, the engine will do engine things. So I really was annoyed with this move. I really thought that that was a good move, and you should not allow my knight to g5. And here I just castled. I thought I could open up this if I want to open up my rook. My rook can lift now. My king is safe. Maybe I have the idea of queen e1 to get in via the dark squares so that this knight doesn't blunt me. He did this move, so now we are basically in the opening course. Except what happened? I castled, he played his move. Oh yeah, we got into the position of the course. He played a6, I castled, and then he played h6. So we basically get into the position of the course. Here I actually play f5. I should have taken. I don't know. I thought that pushing is nice because I control both of these, and then I could just infiltrate. You will probably have to castle to defend the spawn or something. Then I could already sack, get my knight in because of the spin, and I thought that this was like a +1 or +2 position, I will not lie. And I'm quite close, but not really if he finds b5, which he does. And here again, I had a very, very long thought because I will teach you something about the dynamics of a knight and a bishop. So, if you know something about chess, rooks are worth 5 pawns, a queen is worth 9 pawns points, a pawn is worth 1 point, but the bishops and the knights are actually worth 3 points, which is equal. But actually, a bishop is slightly better than a knight, but officially, it's both 3 points. I would say a knight is like 3 points and a bishop is like 3.4. But officially it's both 3. So I was really thinking about, do I want my bishop on a2? Because that is the purpose of a6, but I was scared of this. And after b4, I would think I take to open up my rook. You take back. You get a hit on my bishop, so I have to move again. And why did I do this just to go back? That's dumb. So I was quite scared of this, to be honest. Apparently, this is an awesome position for me. The open rook is insane. My bishop defends my weakest pawn. I still have immense pressure on everything. And I control both of his pawn breaks. And by the way, in the middle game, controlling your opponent's pawn break stops like 70% of their plans. I will guarantee you, if this knight moves, my opponent will start to think about d5. And after like take, now he has a queen in the center, immense pressure, a weak pawn. Yes, he has two weak pawns, but he will have the bishop pair and a weak king to attack after he pushes this pawn. This dark square diagonal opens up. Um, yeah, opening up the board and having pawn breaks is awesome. If you have pawn breaks, you are probably in the better position. And let me tell you, in this position, I have no pawn breaks. My only pawn break would be to prepare this. So after castle, probably, yeah, it showed up as a plan for a while. I mean, for like half a second, but I mean, this obviously just so probably h3 to prepare g4, and that makes a lot of sense because this is my only pawn break. So that's my plan. Um, let's say I move my queen, you retreat. I go towards the center, you take the center, take, let's say takes, take, and now again this showed up as a plan for a second. See, it's a plan now. It's not anymore. Anyway, I mean, if you can move a piece. This bishop hasn't developed yet. Probably if I develop the bishop, no, I can improve my queen. You can improve the rook, and now it's a plan. So now that I have fully optimized my pieces, apparently I can optimize my queen a little bit more. You can optimize your rook a little bit more. Now again, like the pawn break is my plan, or I optimize a piece. And that's probably what you heard before a lot of times. You should look at your plans with checks, but this is my only check and it doesn't work. Captures, but I can't really capture much except for this, but that's not too good. Checks, captures, threats, and optimizations or improvements. I mean, I can't really threaten much. Um, I mean, I could have some pressure here, but it's well defended. I mean, maybe not enough, but you can defend it very easily. I could try to make some threats on your king with like a queen here to take, but that doesn't really optimize my queen. And so my only other things to do is to improve my pieces or try and make a pawn break. And pawn breaks really should make his king unsafe or optimize your pieces again. So that's really a huge deal, obviously. So I was quite annoyed with this that he had this B5 ID. Probably I have to take. Apparently I don't, but I mean we're in the middle of game, so whatever. And also again, knight and bishop dynamics. I was really considering this badly. And I thought that this pin was very bad for him, and he could defend his knight, but now it's pinned, like the bishop is not defended, so it's pinned again. So I thought that this was so annoying that he's quite forced to take. And here again, I'm not sure what's happening. Let's say he moves towards the center. I only thought about takes, takes, and apparently I have to fight knight to d2. Knight to d2 has the plan of kicking your knight. And now what? Move this pawn up, and I control c4. That's the point. You cannot play c4. So after takes and takes, what did this pawn break do? This pawn break opened up my rook, which is huge. And now you can try to fight for this. And now again, I have a pawn break. What will this pawn break do? It gets my knight further. And it improves my knight. So now we are in a position where my rook is awesome. I have pressure on a backward pawn. If you don't know what a backward pawn is, it is a pawn which cannot go forwards and cannot be defended by a pawn. I mean, it can be backwards if it can go forward, but so this pawn cannot be defended by a pawn because he pushed his pawns and lost his c pawn. Excuse me. So this is a backwards pawn. If you want to fight against the backwards pawn, make sure it cannot advance, make sure it cannot trade himself off. So d5 is a huge plan for him, and then just attack it. And it cannot be defended by other pawns, so this is a horrible pawn. I get a lot of pressure. This is a very weak square and a hole in his position, which I can exploit with my two knights. This is an isolated pawn, again, cannot be defended with other pawns, so it is a weakness. And I have an open rook, and I mean, my bishop will probably join the attack. My queen will probably join the attack. My rook can lift. This is an awesome position for me. But yeah, I didn't see this idea to kick his knight, make the pawn breaks. I went over this with my coach, and my coach constantly said, like, you have to play c3. You cannot do anything else. And to be fair, I had to see c3. Knight has to retreat or trade himself off. Apparently, trading it off is bad, so I should first go here, only then kick it. What is the plan of this? My knight has literally no forwards momentum except for going back. Let's say you develop, kick the knight, go back, and now this, with the plan of further reinforcing. But after this, like, yeah, that doesn't make sense because if I make the pawn break, you could even maybe push. I mean, apparently not because this diagonal is too weak. And that's a very important thing about color complexes. A very positional ID. If you have a lot of pawns on the light squares, your dark squares will be weak. If you have a lot of pawns on dark squares, your light squares will be weak. So now you see that most of the pawns are on light squares except for these two, which makes this a very, very big hole. So just developing the bishop and trying to put something in his weakness will devastate his position. Probably something like bishop here, then bishop here. He has to move, and I can plant my bishop on c7, having pressure on the d pawn, and something like knight to b6, defended by the bishop, will be a fork. I do lose my bishop, but I mean it's just an idea, obviously. So also in this position, I should think a lot about, do I want to take? Because you do have a lot of pawns on light squares. It's 4 against 4 though. But I have a lot of pawns on light squares, so my light squares are very strong. So if I can take your dark square, I have the dark squared bishop. I have the only dark squared bishop, and the dark squared bishops are just very, very good assets and very cheap because nothing is defending it, and I have the only dark squared bishop. So very easy to grab. So probably I would take, to be honest. It's not the best of moves, but after something like this, I can hop into your weakness, making sure you cannot trade off your backwards pawn. Again, that ID comes back. Finding this move is incredible. Let's say we just castle, you're already losing. This is basically a fork. I'm probably just is your queen getting trapped? Your queen is just trapped. That's disgusting. What if you go back? Move, sack the knights. Yeah, to be fair, who's defending this? You have to move. We take this, and who's defending? And now you can just grab this. Your best move is to try and trade it off, but we can pin your queen to your king, so you will lose your queen. Very disgusting position. I wish I found that. So, I mean, a retreating knight move just to support my pawn advancement, very difficult to find. So I was thinking about this a long time because of the knight and bishop dynamics. Bishop is a bit better, but only if it has open lines. And my coach told me, like, don't trade your bishop off because, yes, you have a lot of pawns on light squares. So, theoretically speaking, your bishop is quite bad, but it is outside of the chain. If my bishop was on e2 inside of my chain, I would love to trade these pieces off, but it's outside of my chain, which makes this actually quite a disgusting piece. So my coach said, don't trade it off. I was thinking about this, but again, I was quite unhappy with that. I didn't see my response with knight to d5. And my other plan was actually to play it on b3. The one thing is that if you play b5, I can take. My rook is immediately opened up. In a lot of lines, your knight will go to d4 with pressure on c2. And if you play b5 take, knight take, you have pressure on c2, and my queen wants to move. So putting my bishop here can get hit with the knight, but now I can just go back, and your knight is actually quite a terrible piece. And if you want to put it back, we get into the same position as this if this and this happened, but now it's my move. Um, I meant this. So now if we go like this, and this, we get into the same position, but here it's my move instead of his move. So I just want to move. So yes, my bishop could get attacked, but it defends a weak pawn, my weakest pawn in the position, because it is the base of my pawn chain. My queen can now freely move without being scared of c2 hanging. And if it gets kicked, I can still hide it. And if you just go back, I won a tempo. And if you play b5, I can take, instantly open up my rook. If you have pressure on c2, it's well defended. So actually, I went for bishop to b3. In this position, he plays his bishop out, and that's something that's very nice to know in the opening. Always play your most flexible move. So if you go back, first grab the center. That's rule one. He grabs the center like this. I try to do a little trick to develop pieces quickly, but whatever. He grabs more of the center, which is very principled. And now I cannot really grab more of the center, so I should just develop pieces. Grab the center, develop pieces. He develops pieces, I develop pieces. He reinforces all of his weaknesses, which is the best move. So I make sure I reinforce my center and prepare developing pieces. He develops a piece. I make a pawn break, weakening his center. Always everything goes two ways, right? So if you want to grab the center, you can also loosen your opponent's grip over the center. That's equally as strong. If you are in a one on one and you are a bit stronger or your opponent is a little weaker, that's the same thing. So here he prepared to kick my strong bishop to make my bishop a bit more passive. Again, I develop pieces. He's preparing to undevelop my piece, equally as strong. I develop a piece. He prepares my knight not going forward. So again, I want to make my knight more active. He stops it, equally as strong. I castle. And this is really what I wanted to show you. So from the second I am sure I want to go to the king side, I will, because that is the point of a flexible move. Let's say you get up in the morning, right? And you have a lot of things to do. You have to leave, you want to drink coffee, you want to eat, you have to shower, you have to um, put on clothes. What order will you do that? Well, maybe you don't know what to drink yet. Maybe you don't know if you want tea or coffee. Maybe you don't know if you want to eat or what you want to eat. But you are for sure to shower and you are for sure to put on clothes. So do those first. That's the principle of the most flexible move. I'm sure I will castle kingside, get my rook on this file, because if I castle queenside, I will get stormed and I don't want to keep my king in the center because he has pawn breaks in the center. So I'm for sure castling kingside, so that is the most flexible move. So that's what I did. Now my opponent put his bishop on e7, and that again, the most flexible move. How will you develop this bishop? The only three things you can do is make this pawn break so that you can put your bishop there, but you are not making this pawn break anytime soon, except with bishop to e6, and then after takes and takes, you can. Your other way to develop this bishop is with g6 and bishop g7. Other than that, you only have bishop to e7. So if you don't want to do these two things for sure, yeah, your bishop will land on e7, so why not do it right now? If I don't have a threat. Obviously, if I have a clear threat, do that first, but if you can choose between multiple things, do the most flexible thing first. So here I lock the center. Maybe I should have thought a bit longer about this. I don't know. This knight will probably stay here unless I trade it off. So again, most flexible move. My queen will have to go to e2 to be useful if I don't trade this knight off. So I should think, do I want to trade the knight off or do I want to develop my queen like this? Those should be my only two options I think about. Or opening up my rook again, using your pawns to develop a piece. If I trade this off, my rook will be a beast. So use pawns and pawn breaks to activate pieces or weaken his king. So I pushed it. That's quite bad. My rook is here. Yes, I open up my bishop, but taking the same thing. I just thought after takes, I am actually developing his pieces. And let's say takes, this pawn is slightly weak because it cannot be defended by another pawn because the knight is in the way. But actually, I don't know. It's quite hard to exploit that unless with something like this, maybe. But I don't know. I didn't like this, to be fair. But maybe I should have done that just to have some opening somewhere. because that's something I learned from a book from Lacroix Wanda, a very good chess writer, and he went over a game of um I forgot, my bad. But the thing is that the master and very iconic player, which the name slips my mind. He had a lot of extra piece activity, and he just sacrificed the pawn to open everything up, and he just checkmated the opponent in 2 moves. It was like a Philidor opening against two French players at the same time, like two like very high, I think, political people. I don't know if you know what I mean. Let me know in the comments. Um, I think two councils or something. But anyway, so using this to open up lines when you have more activity. If you have more activity, break open the boards, break everything open, especially if it's king in the center. I should have just broken everything open. That's a no-brainer. I don't know why I didn't play it. It's quite terrible of me. I know that was a long yap session for one little mistake, but it's actually quite a huge mistake. I should have just taken. I have more activity. Your king is in the center. Obviously, I break everything open. I don't know. I was quite tunnel visioned on this, but if I break everything open and I'm scared of this, just play H3 and it's all fine. I don't know. Quite mad that I didn't take, actually, if you don't notice. So yeah, after this, I did play my bishop to b3. I already explained this, and he developed his bishop. So here we were. That is the most flexible move. Your bishop is useless here, and he has no other prospects because I do actually control that. So this move being included makes it that this is the most flexible move because your bishop has no other hope anywhere. So that's a very flexible move. My opponent played it instantly. And here my only choices are to just waste time with my bishop, develop this bishop to e3, which probably I should have done, to be fair, because that's again the most flexible move. Where is my bishop gonna go? Not here, not here. It won't sack himself, I think. And especially if I see the plan of knight to d2, I don't want a bishop on d2. So develop a piece to develop the most flexible piece to the most forward square possible, and then I can play knight to d2 without blocking my bishop. So actually, I should have played bishop to e3 here. Instead, I just planted my knight in the center. I really wanted to trade these pieces so that his grip loosened and I can get my queen in one move. That was my plan. And if he's not careful and just allows me, I will just take. And if I take the bishop, I have the bishop pair in any endgame. To be fair, his best move is just to make this pawn break. I mean, I can just take. Oh, and then you fork me. I didn't see that. Oh, yeah, that's quite a nice idea. I cannot lie. And then after it takes and takes, I can defend. You can probably just take. And I mean, I'm slightly better, but there is hope. After take, I shouldn't take back because take, free pawn. Check, I move the king, and what now? You attack. I defend everything. How is this losing? I'm up a pawn, and this pawn is so weak. How is this losing for me? I'm preparing to play bishop to e3, have a free tempo on my queen. Oh, you can take. That's maybe quite annoying. But if you move, I can just. Oh, this is now annoying. You have a very nice initiative. Oh, and this is just a fork. Oh, I didn't see. Damn. So that's, by the way, he just sacrifices a pawn, but he gets the initiative. And if you don't know what an initiative is, so here he sacks after takes and takes and takes. But now he gets a check, so I have to respond to his move. Now he gets an attack to own my queen, so I have to respond to his move. Now he plays his queen to c2 with two threats, and I have to respond to his move, and that's an initiative. I constantly have to react to his moves, and I cannot push my plan because of it. That is at least my definition of the initiative. You have a complete sequence where your opponent has to constantly react. So honestly, again, quite mad. I should have played bishop to e3. It's not the best move, but it's the most natural and good move. I planted the knight in the center, still a quite nice move. But now it's to a draw, and everything I worked hard for is out of the window. But to be fair, my opponent takes, and I'm back to 08. I take back with the bishop. I have awesome pressure on this knight with a pin on the bishop, and if the bishop moves, I still have a pin on the rook. So my opponent played queen to b6, and now again, he's preparing to do a lot of things. My coach said king to h8 is probably the best move, but I played this, which the engine likes better, except if you let it think for a long while. Now it likes knight to d2 again. I would never play that because I let him make a pawn break with a discovery check, and also I block my own bishop. Why would I do that? So the engine says that this is the best move, but that's not human to find, and the second best move is bishop to e3. So I will take that as a W. My opponent planted his knight in the center, quite a natural move. The engine wants to play d6. If he takes, I take back with a pawn. You can challenge my bishop, and after it takes and takes, move the king for some reason. He makes the pawn break, take, take. That's again just the sacrifice of a pawn, but you have a fork. And you win back the pawn. What? You can sack your. Oh. Oh, what happened? Yeah, so very difficult line. I will not lie, I didn't see it. I just stuck, and that did my 1.3 advantage to 05, but only if he takes. And I was not scared of takes because I will develop my rook, I will develop my queen, and I will have awesome pressure. I did not think my opponent was allowed to take. I just take, you take, rook slides, and yeah, king f8 is a quite difficult move to play, I would say, and then I can just develop. I can try to prepare tactics. Not really. The point is that this bishop has to keep guarding this, otherwise I can sack my bishop to get this undefended and maybe get check. So I can just keep improving my position. If you think that b3 is not findable, excuse me, b3 does a lot of things. It's very human to find. First of all, you're putting more pawns on light squares while having a dark squared bishop. So that's very human. Second of all, it stops pawn breaks. Remember that I said that pawn breaks are everything. You should try and stop your opponent's pawn break. So I can't really stop this pawn break unless with c4. But c4 after takes, I will have to take. Now I have this very weak pawn and I just lose it instantly. So that doesn't make sense. I cannot really stop this pawn break. So I just have to stop his c4 pawn break and open up my bishop if he still tries my bishop open. I meant put more pawns on light square so that my bishop has more free space to move. I mean, not here, but you get it. So yeah, I hope that's quite instructive. So my opponent actually took back with the queen, and I'm back to okay. But here I have to find knight to d2, and actually that was the first thing that my coach said, but I didn't really see the plan. Apparently he has to retreat his knight, which is quite a weird sight. And I have to make this pawn break to open up my rook. Very easy to find, but you can push, but that creates a big, massive hole in your defenses. And probably my plan is to play a5 to gain access to b6 so I can plant the knight on b6 and have this disgustingly strong knight. Controlling your pawn break, controlling some squares around your king, controlling this square, attacking the rook. Uh, disgusting knight. Let's say you just castle. Yeah, that did. Okay, I messed up. My bad. 1 second. So we were here. I have to find this. No, we were here, and I have to find this. If you go back, this push here, and if you move your rook, yeah, a5 is the idea, and a5 just gains control over b5. So if you move your king, knight here is very natural. The other thing is again to make a pawn break to open up the b file. Always think about pawn breaks. What does it open up? And apparently, also very important, if you can make a pawn break with a pawn on the wrong color, it's double as strong. So I have a dark squared bishop. If I can make a pawn break with this pawn so that this pawn is gone, that will be very, very good for me. That just eliminates a pawn on the wrong color. But I mean, that's not really doable in this position. Probably after this, let's say take and take, I get this open file, and if you just don't do anything, I will plant my knight on a very nice square. If you wait for a while, I will take the open file. If you wait, I can even push this pawn on a light square now and plant my knight again on a very nice square. You have to move your queen. And I have awesome pressure if you just don't do anything again. I can even use the pawn to infiltrate with my rook. I didn't really need it, but still. And I mean, I just have this awesome position with a disgusting knight, a nice queen, good bishop, good color complex with bishop and pawn, very open rook, and a lot of pressure on everything. Best move is to do this. Now I can take, and after takes and takes, put my pawn again on c4. It serves two purposes. First of all, now my bishop can move more because I put my pawns on the good color complex. Second of all, again, I'm stopping pawn breaks. He doesn't have this pawn break anymore, and he doesn't have d5. So very, very useful and findable move. If you watch enough of my content, then you know that that's a very huge deal. Because that's quite advanced, but I mean, that's why you are here. But I don't find this. It's quite a far side. And here, actually, I'm playing 4 against 4. There is already one draw. Another board next to me looks like a draw. And the only information I have on the third board is that the opposing side pushed the clock very aggressively. So I thought it's a draw. The board next to me is probably gonna draw, and my opponent on the other board is quite mad. So a draw is enough. So I just push my bishop back, said, "Do you want to draw?" My opponent declined, and then he put his king on d7, and yeah, here my plan is quite unclear, but I yeah, I don't know what to do here. That's why this video is here. So probably making a pawn break is a good thing, but what does that pawn break do? Well, first of all, if he takes, I do get a piece closer, and after takes and takes, sure, my knight is quite strong. That is for sure. But if you kick my knight and I cannot go to e6 because your knight controls it and your king, the only thing I did is make your H pawn disappear and open up your rook. So this does not make a lot of sense in my head. Moving my king is a move, but that's probably only to allow my knight to some place, which is quite difficult to see. Probably h3 is a move, but only for the same reason to rotate my knight somehow, but that's again very difficult to see. a very hard plan, putting my knight here to push c3 and probably put a knight on c2 or just make it defend d3 because if I push, this is obviously not defended with a pawn anymore. But again, very difficult to see. And here, again, like b3 is a move, very human to find. I'm stopping a pawn break and putting a pawn on the right color complex so that my bishop has more space to roam around. Also very human to find, but I took. And here, actually, a quite instructive moment. What pawn do you take? I thought takes was in my favor actually because I can make this pawn break. You have to take me because if you allow me to take, you will have double isolated pawns. And you give me way too much initiative because I can make a pawn break, which is obviously very good for me. And you have to take me. Otherwise, I will damage your structure severely. And a damaged structure on a higher level with a lot of time is enough to win a game. If you take, I make this pawn break, you have to take, I can take. That's a bad pawn, but it's fine. And if you just don't do anything, let's say actually anything, I can take. And if you take back, this is enough to win a game. You see +3. I gain the foul with a tempo. You move your king. I get my queen in with a lot of pressure. You have to defend this, otherwise, my queen will take and I will have this check. And again, how do I win this? Make a pawn break. Pawn breaks are everything. Pawn breaks are very, very important. So, this video is 46 minutes now, and I'm on move 18. I hope it's very, very instructive. If you learned a lot, subscribe, and you have more content like this. So, that is not possible for my opponent. But here, what do you do? So, I really wanted to play bishop to b4, just pressuring his backwards pawn, but that gets hit with a5. So, I thought bishop to a5 makes a lot of sense. I'm just taking control over some important squares. Maybe making it so that your king is a bit stuck. By the way, if I have 3 moves in a row, I have a checkmate. And you can think, okay, if you have 3 moves in a row, but that's how you make a plan. So my plan should be to get my queen active, take this pawn, so I can gain access here. That's how I checkmate him. Because my queen will see everything and my bishop covers the other 2 things. So this enables this plan and makes it stronger. So that's my plan. I played this, and my opponent played rook to g8. And here again, I should have thought, what is my plan? Well, if I have 3 moves in a row, this is checkmate. So this is a very human move to find with that plan in mind. But I was thinking a bit differently and I played queen to g4. So I did find the plan of activating my queen, but with another plan. If I have 2 moves in a row here, I will play queen to g4 and f6. F6 is a discovery check and I attack the bishop, but that's a bit of hope chess. That's a bit of hope chess because you can defend it. And I was really expecting this. Now I cannot push this pawn. My queen is locked. This is defended. And everything is just locked. This is a draw. It's done. So I really should have played queen to h4, h5 I meant. You will have to defend. So you just dance the salsa with your pawn. I have this pawn break again after takes. I can even sag the pawn because if you take, I have check and I win a queen and I cover your promotion, which is very important. So this will be winning for sure. By the way, if you ask me, a queen beats 2 rooks and a queen beats a bishop and a rook with 2 pawns. I will always take the queen. I don't care. If I saw this, I think I win the game, but I didn't. My opponent went back to e8, and you could say, yes, you are winning even more now than if you found queen to h4. Yeah, but this is more difficult. This is a more difficult position. And to give you some context, four against four, and there are two draws and one loss now. So the pressure is on my shoulders here to win this position so that my team makes it a draw. So I have to win this. So I go for the pawn break. I thought it was quite complicated. You can develop the bishop. I can sag the pawn. You can push this. Is my queen right? Do I want to attack like this? Do I want the pawn break? Do I want to move? Because now I can go here because a5 cannot be played because you moved your rook. How do I activate my rooks? A very complicated position, but I have to win it. So what do I do? Make a pawn break. Again, my opponent defended the pawn, and here obviously he's setting up something with takes with a check. You win the pawn, and it is looking quite bad for me. But I find king to h1. Coach said that that was the only move in the position. The engine finds this. He can take with a check. Then I move my king, and you cannot take because this infiltration is way too strong. Check, you have to move, check, mate. So you have to sacrifice the bishop. I can take, you move, check, take. Queen gets in. How do you defend this? You have to defend, and now I just win a rook. So infiltration way too strong. Probably I can even go here so that this is a checkmating threat. That is why all moves cover this one square, so I can't play my queen to c8. That would be just GG. For example, this, and yeah, I have a maiden one, but if I didn't have this would be way too disgusting. So yeah, I just played my king to h1. I didn't see this rook move. And now bishop to g1 lands. And you can say 4 plus 4. You are completely winning. Obviously, you win this. It's not that easy. And actually, here I only saw one sequence and it didn't work. The only plan I saw was to checkmate his king with a rook and a queen here. How will I do that? Takes. Queen takes is the only thing I saw. Then I thought I have to sack my f pawn, and that is a blunder. And I thought about takes, and here I thought check doesn't work because you move. My queen is hanging, so I have to give a check. You can move, and you're safe here. And I thought that this was just losing actually because I have this weakness. You have a way stronger bishop. Your king is safe. Your rooks will kick my queen, take the file, and I thought this was actually losing. So how did I fix this problem of my queen hanging so I have to move and you can just go away? My girlfriend's calling 1 second. I'm back. My bad. So how did I fix the problem of check? Now my queen's hanging, so I have to give a check. To be fair, I didn't even think about this. Probably there's a plan here to take. Oh, but then you have this. Low key take bishop here is my first instinct to like have this pressure, which you have to defend. Now I can take this, and this is, I would say, winning for white. Apparently, it's not, but rook here, queen trades is bad. Take, attack. Oh, I cannot defend this because of this bishop. Oh, I missed that. Fair enough. Yeah, this bishop is too strong. If this bishop wasn't that strong, I would say this is winning for white. Why? If you have watched a lot of my videos, you know that um, there's a big difference between a winning position and a win condition. Here, I don't have a winning position. I'm not up material. I'm not up in activity. My structure is slightly better, but you do have a lot of open lines to compensate for it. But I do have a bit more holes in your position, and my color complex is a bit better. So I would think that this is +1 or +05, but your bishop and your queen are too active. if your bishop and your queen wasn't too active, this is probably a +1 position, so slightly winning. But my biggest asset is not my winning position, it is my win condition. My win condition is either a checkmating attack, which I don't have, or a passed pawn. I have a passed pawn. This will be a thorn in his side. He will hate this pawn. So this will stay here until I just finish development again, maybe activate my pieces like this or something, not that. Get my rooks active, maybe trade some pieces, have a lot of pressure on this. Then my pawn will march, and that will be a massive problem for him. Because if he wants to do the same, he needs a king here, this pawn break, which will open up my rook, by the way. And then a 2-on-1 attack to make a pawn break, and only then he has a passed pawn. I just have a passed pawn. If you give me 5 moves, you are screwed. So I would say that this is slightly better for white, but white has a win condition. So that's fantastic. Apparently it's not. So maybe in this position, I should consider takes to try and take and push my 2 passed pawns. Obviously, I have to lose this, and that's probably why this pops up as a move, just to defend this. Now you have to move while keeping an eye on this, and yeah, I don't know what to do here because I cannot infiltrate anymore. And that again is a problem with this. Like here, let's say I give a check first, you run. Now I attack your queen. Now you take, I attack, you move, I take, you take, I take, and now I have a 2-on-0. You have the same thing, but passed pawns on the flank are stronger than in the center. If I attack your pawns in the center, my pieces are still quite active. If you want to stop flank pawns, your pieces will have to deactivate. If you don't know what I mean, a bishop in the center controls 3, 3, 3, and 4 squares. That's 13. A bishop here controls 2, 5. That's it. So 7. So let's say you try to stop my pawns from here. That's 2, 2, 2, and 5, which equals 11. So if you push this, I plant the bishop in the center. My bishop just objectively controls more squares than if you would want to block my pawns with a bishop here, for example. That's really what I mean. So I would again say that my position is slightly better and my win condition is better. So probably this is very, very winnable for white. But I didn't actually consider this. So that again is what this video is about, how to win one positions. But I only saw this F6 ID and it doesn't really work. In this case, I have to sack my rook, which I saw. Oh wait, hold. I got distracted. So after this check here, I saw that I would have to give a check. I only thought about this, by the way, which I didn't see this move. Fair enough, and all other things are a draw. I didn't see this. So I thought that he was completely safe in the center. I have to sack. And after takes and takes, you take, and I cannot infiltrate. That's a checkmate, but I have back rank issues. So it doesn't work. So that really is the problem. So how did I fix that? I saw sack the pawn, you take, give it. Here I sack my rook, so that after you take, now my queen is hanging, but I can take with a check, you move. I give a check, you move. Now I take, and you have to take this pawn now, and we get into quite the same position where this is a checkmating ID, but I have back rank issues, so I can't. And this is losing. That's the only sequence that I saw. And that's something I want to teach you in this 1 hour long video. My bad. I hope it's useful. If it's useful, subscribe. This is really something. I looked at this for this, so I could do this with this somewhere. So change the move order. Obviously, I cannot do this without the pawn. I saw that the pawn is bad, so I only have one other thing, and it is just to move the rook. So I should have calculated this. And after takes and takes, now we are in this position, which is very findable. And let's say you take a pawn with an attack on my rook. I get check, you have to move. I can give it check, you have to move. And at least I have a draw, so it doesn't hurt to go for this. Check here, check. I mean, now we are just repeating, and I have to see this so that I don't have back rank issues. After check, my king is safe. You have to do this to try and propose a queen trade. Did I say propose? Anyway, um, now I have to cover your queen trade. You move in, I take a pawn. And that is basically what we saw a couple of moves ago, that winning this pawn is huge because I gain access on e6. And now my queen will be able to go to e6. But I mean, I should at least have seen the draw and just went for it and thought about it. By the way, in this position, like this position, I calculated 20 minutes, like more, I think, even. And I just took his draw and let my team lose because I thought everything was losing but complicated. But apparently, after takes and takes, this is losing. But I just should have seen this. Take, see that this is probably his best move, and at least it leads to at least a draw. If you try to defend it, it doesn't work, first of all. Second of all, I can still do this, and after it takes, my rook gets in, you only have one move, and I at least win a rook. And I'm just up a bishop now. A bishop for a pawn if I see the count. But I mean, I should have seen that that doesn't work, taking this doesn't work, running with your king doesn't work, and I at least have this draw. Go for this and calculate from that. So, how did I not see this? Well, I was tunnel vision on this ID to do this with the sacrifice on that. And I always tell all of my students, if you see a whole sequence, but it just doesn't work, try change the move order. And that's what I should have done. I should have just done this. Obviously, the only bad line for me would be to take. This is the only risk. His best move. I have check. I at least have a draw. And if I don't have a draw, it is because I'm completely winning. Because I get my king to safety. If you try to make a queen trade, I can stop it. And this is a complicated position, but I win a pawn. You're still up a lot of material, but I have a lot of tactics. Everything works in my favor. Seeing the draw here is maybe complicated. Maybe this is one of the complicated lines. Like seeing h3, I'm down the exchange, and seeing the drawing mechanism here is quite difficult. So this is probably one of the harder lines. But I mean, I didn't see it. And it's a draw. GG to my opponent. I hope you learned a lot. And I'll see you in the next one. Subscribe.